I'm sure people will be continuing to join for the next couple of minutes, but really to allow us to have as much time as possible for you to be able to listen to the subject matter experts and to be able to discuss and ask questions and share as well. We're going to make a start. So I welcome you. It's fantastic to be here at the Social Prescribing Third International Conference, discussing the subject of homelessness and social prescribing. My name's David Cowan. I am one of the committee steering group members, and I also am a social prescribing network regional facilitator and regional learning coordinator for Yorkshire and Humber. I am also a social prescribing qualification tutor for the level 3 qualification in social prescribing, which is delivered with Bromley by Bow, University of East London and Connects Healthcare. I am also a time for care development advisor at NHS England. So I'm so pleased to see the numbers continuing to grow and that you have an interest in social prescribing. Just some housekeeping before I hand over to Dr. Nigel Hewett, our co-chair. You will notice that there is a recording, on at the moment, and we will be sharing this video wider following the session. And we would like you to be able to contribute, and please do feel free to use the chat box to introduce yourself to others, to connect and network, but we would be grateful if you would be able to keep yourself on mute until you wanted to speak. But please do, as we get to the opportunity to discuss and share, we'd love to hear from you. So we're planning on having a couple of speakers. The first two speakers we will have are from South Yorkshire Housing Association, who provide a social prescribing model within secondary care, and we will have a speaker from Share and Care Homeshare, which will be the second speaker. Then we're going to have some Q&A, and then we're going to listen to the third speaker, who is Stephen, who's a PCN link worker from Meadowell Clinic in Herts. And we would, really welcome again some further discussion following that. We're going to use Slido, which is one of the tools that will help us to encourage discussion. But you will also see that I'm posting something in the chat box now. I'm going to hand over to Nigel, who will explain a little bit more about this link. But I hope you enjoy the session.
Thanks very much, David, and welcome everybody. Welcome to my garden shed in Leicester, which is where I'm speaking from. I'm delighted to be here. I'm the Medical Director of Pathway Charity and Secretary to the Faculty for Homeless and Inclusion Health. This is a free-to-join network for anyone interested in health for socially excluded people. And the link there is to encourage you to check that out and think about joining. One of the many things which the faculty does is publish standards for inclusion healthcare. And this is built on an increasing body of research which points to the key importance of individual care coordination supported by a multidisciplinary team, which might also almost be a definition of social prescribing in the field of people experiencing homelessness. There are a number of key themes which have emerged from our work. An understanding of trimorbidity, the combination of physical ill health with mental ill health and addictions, which commonly characterises long-term homelessness, and that resulting complexity needs time and outreach, and needs, what we're hearing from Andy Burnham, needs the healthcare system to come out of its silos and connect out into the community to provide integrated care. We have an increasing understanding of the importance of trauma-informed care, boundaried consultations, never promising more than you can deliver, and always doing what you have promised. That trauma-informed care has its roots in the understanding of complex trauma and in the understanding of adverse childhood experiences. Realization that being brought up in poverty and adversity can have serious long-term consequences on the way that people think. But more than anything, the key evidence-based intervention is around the real power of developing a trusting relationship with someone who cares. And that building of trusting relationships is very clearly exemplified by these 3 presentations, which I'm sure you'll find fascinating. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what each of these teams has got to tell us. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. So we're going to hear from our first video, which is Joe Hall, Service Manager at Social Prescribing Service in South Yorkshire Housing Association.
Hi everyone, my name's Joe Hall. I'm the Service Manager for South Yorkshire Housing Association. It's a pleasure to be involved in the event today. I'm here with my colleague Kate, and we'll be talking about social prescribing and housing. So the importance of health and housing. So in 2017, the King's Fund stated that good quality housing is critical to health. A well-housed population helps to reduce demand for NHS services. Estimated that the cost of poor housing to the NHS is £1.4 billion per year. So who are South Yorkshire Housing Association? So we were set up around about 50 years ago as a not-for-profit organisation, and we support people and communities across South Yorkshire. We're in the top 100 best companies as not-for-profits. We're an investors in people, and we've achieved the Gold Award. We have over 5,000 properties, plus over 25 supported housing projects. We also have our employment services and examples of good work and working win. We are one of the largest providers of social prescribing, and with South Yorkshire Housing Association, you can settle at home, live well, and realise your potential. So a little bit more about our social prescribing services. So Doncaster Social Prescribing was set up in 2014. The My Best Life Barnsley service, the primary care service has been in place since 2017, and our secondary care service since 2018. So that we have several principles for social prescribing, and some of these are that we improve health and well-being through the delivery of a personalised approach. Customers develop resilience and self-confidence. We encourage enhanced participation in activities in the community. We look for a decreased social isolation and loneliness and improved mental well-being. And we reduce pressure on the health and social care systems. Overview of the data. So what we found is that 93% of customers are more aware of services and support in the local community. 76% of customers feel better supported to manage their own health needs. 100% of customers rate the service as excellent or good. 96% of customers supported to stay living at home have remained living at home, therefore reducing pressures on care and statutory services. For our most frequent attenders at GP surgeries, we've seen a 93% reduction in attendance. We've also seen a significant 19% increase in well-being around areas including customers connecting with others, giving to others, keeping learning and taking notice. We've seen an 18% increase in customers becoming more active, having positive benefits for both physical and mental health. For our HIU customers, we've seen a 50% reduction in 999 calls, a 63% reduction in YAS transfers, and 59% reduction in hospital admissions, a 48% reduction in ED attendances, and also a 22% reduction in 111 calls. I'll now hand you over to Kate, who's going to talk a little bit more about our housing aspects.
Thanks for that, Joe. I'm going to take over for the second half of the presentation. My name's Kate Walsh. I'm the team leader for My Best Life Secondary Care. I'm taking you through a case study first for Chris. Chris was homeless and sofa surfing. He'd been diagnosed with delusional disorder. He'd previously owned his own home, but his relationship had broken down and he experienced domestic abuse. His practice nurse made a referral to Doncaster Social Prescribing. We met Chris at the community library close to where he was staying on a friend's sofa. He told us, "I need to get some accommodation to stop feeling worthless because I'm homeless." We spoke about the Doncaster Move On project and Chris applied for accommodation with the service. Chris moved into his new home. And Chris attends activities close to his home, supporting his well-being, and this is an important aspect in his recovery. Now here we have a quote from Chris. "Thank you, I now have somewhere to live instead of sleeping in the car or sofa surfing and no longer relying on other people. I feel like I can be myself and I'm going to visit Mind's social cafe as this is close to where I live. I can now get my things out of storage and make this my home. I'm very grateful for all the help and support you have provided. I wish I had known about social prescribing a long time ago and how they could help me. I'm now smiling again. Thank you." And now a bit about secondary care and housing. So we've linked the homeless team at Barnsley Metropolitan Borough Council into the high intensity user group at Barnsley Hospital A&E for monthly meetings. We're a key point of communication between both, and this has really helped by our knowledge of housing and homelessness as well as being integrated within A&E. We've always had a shared office space at South Yorkshire Housing Association, so our social prescribing advisors and housing workers could share information and best practice, and now this is done virtually, of course. And we will be assisting the BMBC homeless team in developing a homeless hospital discharge protocol for a robust pathway. We have case studies of successfully supporting homeless customers to not only secure their own tenancy, but to improve their health and well-being and reduce their A&E attendances. We're well placed to make homeless team referrals for patients discharged with no known address. We're person-led and flexible, able to track down some more difficult to engage customers by attempting contact in various places, such as GP practices, places where they stay on a temporary basis, or local authority spaces. For example, we might be told about potential appointments at other services and be there to see if we can make contact. And we've even been advised to go to certain parts of the town centre to find other people. A quote here from a secondary care customer: "Without Janice in my life, well, I wouldn't be here today. I'm more confident and happy and no longer fear going out, and I'm learning to deal with my health conditions, not to panic, and I no longer attend A&E. Slowly but surely I'm getting there and I feel more in control." Further feedback can be seen on our care opinion page. And just to note that we're keen to expand our social prescribing model in both primary and secondary care settings. Please contact us today to discuss any of the information we've discussed. And you can see our emails below for both Joe and I, and our Twitter handles for My Best Life Barnsley and Doncaster Social Prescribing. Thank you for listening.
Okay, so that's great to have heard from our South Yorkshire Housing Association colleagues. And now I'm going to play a video from our colleagues at Care Homeshare.
Here. Thank you, David, for introducing me. And I'm delighted to be speaking at this session on housing and homelessness and presenting Giving People a Home through Homeshare. Firstly, though, I would just like to apologise that you can't see me. I have a Mac, and it appears it isn't easy to video record when using PowerPoint with a Mac, and to get it to work was definitely above my technical skills. However, I do hope to see you all at the Q&A session which follows these presentations. So what is Homeshare? I don't know how familiar you are with Homeshare, but it does address both these issues we are discussing today. It's a very low-cost way of giving someone older or with a mental or physical support need a level of practical help and company to enable them to live safely and supported in their own home. The householder provides a bedroom in their home, and the sharer gives around 15 hours of practical help and company each week in exchange for the accommodation. So how does Homeshare work? The kind of practical help the sharer might give could include shopping and cooking a few meals each week, light housework, the kind of thing that you do in your own home, maybe taking out the bins, sorting out recycling, sweeping leaves in the garden, and for company, maybe watching TV together, sharing a meal, or going for a walk. But most importantly, the sharer gives reassurance to the householder by sleeping in the house overnight. So what does it cost? Well, both the householder and the sharer pay a monthly fee to Share and Care Homeshare for facilitating the service, and this fee is £150 per month. Share and Care is a CIC, so we have no outside funding, so the participants fund the scheme. No money changes hands between the householder and the sharer. A sharer doesn't pay rent or utilities, although they might be asked to contribute towards the council tax, but this is capped at £50 per calendar month. And both parties pay for their own food. So for both parties, it's a very low-cost solution. So who can be a sharer? Sharers must be working or studying and know the hours of this work or study and the location. This is important to ensure their timings fit naturally with the householder. We're looking for kind, empathetic people. Maybe they've done volunteering or worked in the caring profession or have grandparents that they were close to. They must be prepared to use this as their primary home, and we will ensure that they have a fully enhanced DBS before they become a sharer. We require that they speak clear English and are able to cook healthy, simple meals. But most importantly, we require sharers to be over the age of 24 and to show emotional maturity. So with COVID very much on all our minds, we have obviously seen an increase in people struggling to pay rent. and the low-cost accommodation gives security when furloughed. But Homeshare has also not only given someone a home during this time, but also a purpose. Early on in the pandemic, we introduced COVID guidelines and have only had one case of COVID, which was a sharer, and she self-isolated, and thankfully she didn't give it to her householder. We have continued to place sharers in homeshares during the pandemic and have had to come up with ways for how people can meet and get to know each other in line with government guidelines. A sharer either takes a COVID test or self-isolates before moving into the homeshare. We have also been very busy filling current opportunities and have seen an increase in sharers wanting to live outside of towns and cities. And this lines up with people working from home and thinking more about the area they want to live in. And we don't see that changing much over the next year. So how can a social prescriber refer to us? We have a social prescribing page on our website with further details of how to refer patients and a section of FAQs. We would love you to sign up to the Social Prescribers newsletter, which we produce once a month, and you can sign up to this on our Social Prescribers page. We look forward to welcoming you to our virtual stand here at the conference, and of course we'd be delighted to discuss our work more with you and your colleagues, either here at the conference or we can arrange another date for a meeting. We can offer to join one of your team meetings to present our work, so please do contact me if you would like to arrange this. And I would like to finish with a quote from a sharer who has just left our scheme to buy her own flat. She lived with this lady for 18 months, and this lady was very depressed when Susanna the sharer arrived. The elderly lady tells us that having a sharer has changed her life, and I'm glad to say we found another lovely person to share with this lady. So Susanna tells us, I have cherished being a sharer. I recommend the scheme to everyone who wants to focus on their prospects in life, while sharing some of their free time with a person who needs support and companionship. It is truly rewarding and in some ways even life-changing for me. Well, thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to meeting some of you over the next couple of days.
Okay, and I'm going to stop sharing for a second to open up for questions. I can see there's a few things popping up in the chat regarding the first presentation, which links to the terms used for the customer versus patient versus person, and there's been a bit of a discussion around that, which is quite interesting. So I'm not sure if anybody wants to unmute themselves and just ask any questions around that, or you know, to come in to ask any other questions. Please feel free at this point just to you know, to ask any questions that you have, or you know, share anything that you would like to share. But there's certainly something in there, Joe and Kate, about the term customer.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, and I think just to give a bit of background, it's similar to what we're seeing in the chat. We've got a customer participation group, and they actually met last month because we've been using the term customer for around about the last 6 or so years, and it was taken to that group to have a discussion around what's the terminology that we utilise, because we provide so many services, whether that's social housing, the employment support, social prescribing, and even the group couldn't decide on changing that terminology, even though some people didn't like it, some people are okay with it. So it's just one of those conversations that we keep having. I think when we're supporting customers out in the communities, out in their homes, on telephones, it's a very personalised service, and you don't always say, oh, you're our customer kind of thing. So you're just cautious with some of the language that you use in that day-to-day support. But at the moment, in terms of our actual reports, our presentations, we do use that terminology.
Can I just step in as well? Previous to us using the term customer, I remember there was same again, sort of a panel group with customers of SYHA, and at the time there was a lot of discussion around the term client and service user being a bit too institutionalised, and I'm sure that's why we moved to the term customer, because it was felt less so. But yeah, it's never a completed project for anyone.
Thanks both. Really interesting, yeah, I think there's certainly something about the kind of person-centered approach that you've talked about there, and just the terminology. I hope that answers the question that was raised in the chat box. I think the language used to describe the individual is very interesting. Yeah. Okay. Nigel, I'm just trying to monitor some of the other questions that are coming through. I think there's definitely one coming for Amanda as well, from what I can see, and I think this one, Homeshare is an interesting scheme. Can I please ask what support is provided to ease the transition when a sharer moves on? What is the dependency built up for the homeowner receiving the support? Is the change difficult? Thank you. And that's from Kerry Graham.
Hi, Kerry. What happens usually is that we would try and find someone else to take over. Usually someone will give us notice, well, they give us notice anyway, the home sharers. So we have a period of time where we would look for someone else. Very often, if it's elderly clients, then it may be that they need another kind of care. They might go into full-time residential care. You know, we work with the families and the people that are supporting them to ensure that they don't feel alone once the sharer's left. Shall I carry on? Because I saw another question about, we are a nationwide scheme, so we offer the service across the UK. And I think there was one more question about the ongoing support. So what we do is we keep in touch with both parties during the life of a home share. So we do some, you know, we can support people if, as you can imagine, initially, perhaps when someone moves into someone else's home, it's quite difficult. It's a kind of unusual situation where you're thrown together very quickly. So our team here will support people together and help them sort of get through those initial few weeks and support them all the way through the home share. We also have a fitness class that we run virtually once a week. So we encourage people to join that so that they can meet other people in the home sharing care community. And also we offer that even, you know, if for some reason their situation changes and they're no longer home sharing. So we try to build up a community within a community and support people as best we can through whatever they're going through.
Thank you. There's one more question, and I can see another one coming for South Yorkshire Housing as well, which Joe and Kate can pick up in a second, which is about the tenants and the referral process and who refers, i.e. staff manager. But just before we move on to that one, something about the safeguarding, curious about the safeguarding involved in home share.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I have done safeguarding training, so I'm the safeguarding lead within Share and Care Home Share. However, we're not a regulated service because we're not, we don't have to conform to the Quality Commission because we're not doing personal care. So really, it's very much down to us as an organisation. We're also members of Home Share UK and Home Share International who have standards set. We do when we're interviewing potential sharers, we go through safeguarding policies with them, and obviously we have a safeguarding procedure if there at any time is a question that needs attending to. Obviously, what you have to also think is, and we make our sharers aware, is that they aren't the only person necessarily coming in and out of the house. So there could be carers, there could be, in fact, family members that, you know, occasionally there might be an issue, particularly if someone's got dementia, they might be leaving the gas on, you know, there's lots of different things. So again, that's why we keep in touch with people and make sure that people report any safeguarding issues to us.
Wonderful. I'm going to bring in Joe now, if that's okay, to answer the question about how customers, patients, tenants are identified, referral process, who is referring, and Joe and Kate, whoever wants to contribute on that one, please.
I'm not sure if that was a question for Amanda, but I'm happy to say in response to the question, we take referrals directly. If it's for the primary care social prescribing services, it's from primary care services, whether that's GP practice or community primary care services. And for the secondary care services, it's direct referral from the secondary care services, so Yorkshire Ambulance Service, Emergency Department and secondary care mental health teams.
Thank you very much, Joe. And apologies if I didn't quite interpret that question correctly. If that was aimed at Amanda, it might well actually been still aimed at yourself. It's quite difficult to unpick that one. But thanks very much, Joe.
No problem.
Shall I say our referral process? Our referral processes can come either from well, anybody in social care, but equally people can self-refer them to us. So it's not a laborious process. It's more about we finding out about the person, the householder, and then matching them with a sharer. I noticed someone else has asked about, will we do checks? Yes, we do fully enhanced DBS checks on people and credit checks as well. And we obviously do references, at least take up at least 3 references, and we speak to different referees, you know, people that perhaps have lived with them as well as their work references, because obviously it's about living with someone, and it's important to know about them as a person. We spend a lot of time finding out about the person, and we write sort of quite detailed profiles before they're even introduced to the householder.
Thank you.
Could I ask a question for Joe and Kate, just sitting here thinking about that service? Obviously, you're forming some great and very therapeutic relationships with people. How do you boundary that? Do you find yourself in situations in which people are needing very long-term support? Is that okay, or do you have to find ways of closing a relationship?
I definitely think that that's a balance, Nigel. Thanks for the question. And I think that because we try to focus on the personalised support, it is very relevant to the customer. We kind of have a few of the services have a 12-week, 3-month time scale in terms of the support that we provide, but it's very much based on the customer. So we'll potentially support some customers for just 1 or 2 visits, so it's nowhere near the 12 weeks, but also some more longer term support as well that's provided. And it also depends on the community solutions available within that customer's locality as well, and if we're able to refer on appropriately to appropriate services. So yeah, very different, and it's just trying to get that balance with depending on the support needs of the customers.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I can see there's some more questions coming in. That's brilliant. What I would suggest is keep putting those questions in. We want to make sure that we cover all of the videos that we've got. And we've got Stephen, who's going to be presenting now. So if we should we introduce Stephen, Nigel?
Hello, it's great to be here to talk to you today. And thank you to the conference organisers and also to our co-hosts, Nigel and David, who are running this session. My name is Stephen Windmill, and I'm a social prescribing link worker working with Meadowell Clinic in Watford, southwest Hertfordshire. And Meadowell is a specialist enhanced service GP surgery for people experiencing homelessness and substance issues. I've got a few slides to go through, but my email address is on the first slide here for anyone that would like to contact me to learn more about Meadowell and the social prescribing support that I provide for the patients there. So Meadowell Clinic is part of Watford Health Centre, and as I say, it's an enhanced service GP surgery. And I've been working with Meadowell for over 3.5 years now, providing social prescribing and social support to the patients. And many of the patients attend the surgery every 2 weeks or even every week. So it's a real hub for support and ensures that homeless people have access to the healthcare and support that they need. And pre-COVID, we had a range of services available for patients, as you can see, from psychotherapy to mental health support, from the link worker, complex needs, as well as myself, the social prescriber. And obviously things have changed quite dramatically during the pandemic. So my support is primarily at the moment telephone based, as is a lot of the GP support. But during between the lockdowns, I was able to be a bit more creative about meeting up with people, and we met in cafes, on park benches, in car parks and so on, to try and get that face-to-face support while we were able to. Obviously, we're not at the moment. Patients are experiencing a range of circumstances. Some are rough sleeping, some are sofa surfing, some are in temporary accommodation, some are in more permanent social housing, and also in the private rented sector. Many patients do have substance issues in addition to their housing needs, and patients stay on the books at Meadowell until we're sure that they can cope with a mainstream surgery, and then they're moved into the general patient list at Watford Health Centre. And I support patients with a wide range of issues, but as you can imagine, housing benefits are some of the key issues that our patients face. And often talking through an issue is as big a benefit to the patients as any follow-up work and direct support. And I don't have any set time lengths for our conversations, which are done on a drop-in, first-come, first-served basis. And continuity and reliability are key elements in providing that support, and trust is a massive thing. Many patients have not had positive experiences with other agencies and support organisations in the past, and it's important not to put any further barriers in the way to receiving the support that they need, which is very much person-centred. And as I say, people can talk as long as they wish, which of course is not an option that's open to the GPs, who have a fixed time that they can support people for. And I aim to be straightforward and honest with patients, and be clear what we can do, what the options are, what we can't do, when we can do it. And we're lucky in the Watford area to have very good partners in supporting patients. So Watford Borough Council have done a lot to support people with temporary accommodation, including an imminent Housing First project, which will be great when that starts, for supporting entrenched rough sleepers. We also have some other specialist support services in the area, in particular New Hope, and we all work well together, including homelessness task force meetings to support specific rough sleepers. And the GPs at Meadowell are very supportive of social prescribing and the work I do with the patients. And as you can see, some of the comments about the benefits to the surgery and the PCN. And just finally, some feedback from the addiction psychotherapist at Meadowell, which I hope demonstrates the value of the social prescribing support that I provide for the patients at the surgery. So thank you very much for listening. Please do ask any questions in the Q&A afterwards, and I'll pass you back to David and Nigel.
We are going to use a tool to help you contribute to the discussion, which is called Slido. But please feel free to use the chat box right now to ask Stephen any particular questions. But while you're just thinking about that, we're going to use Slido. So you'll see a little link popping up into the chat box now. You can also use your phone if you've got a QR code reader, or you can use your camera. You should just be able to put your camera straight onto the well, if you point it at that little square QR code reader in the corner, it should take you to the Slido poll, which we've got, which would be, you know, what 1 or 2 words describe social prescribing and homelessness to you. So please do consider that while you're thinking about some of the questions that you might want to ask. Just to say, so kind of you, Kerry. Thank you very much. You know, the tech side of us did throw us a few challenges this year, but we're pleased that we managed to make it work pretty well. And just thank you so much to everyone who's contributed to producing these videos as well, which is, it's, you know, we wouldn't be able to do this without Stephen and Amanda and Kate and Joe. So massive thanks to them as well. Just a point, really, more of a point specifically to yourself, which is what an amazing service and fantastic job Stephen is doing, from Kate. So that's so amazing. Oh, wonderful. We have our first person who's got on Slido. I always like to see one. Always makes me feel at least that the tech is working. So yeah, thanks for that. You should see the first question. What 1 or 2 words describe social prescribing and homelessness to you coming up, Vivian? So hope you're seeing that. It seems to have worked on my phone. You should get 3 questions in total. We've got a couple of people underfunded. I don't think anyone would disagree with you there. Certainly want to see more funding going into this. Yeah, I mean, if anyone's got any specific questions that they want to raise as well, you can chuck those in the chat box. An opportunity, yeah. Oh, that one's definitely, yeah, makes a massive. It makes massive sense to me that this is an opportunity. Yeah, we can see that growing as people seem to be agreeing. I wonder if I've influenced the poll there. Sorry, but I do think it is an opportunity, isn't it? So on my phone didn't work. Sorry, Vivian. Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge if you're on your phone to do all of this stuff. But well done for trying. And yeah, I've seen some things: chaos, pattern, person specific, complicated, touchy but a goodie. Yeah, I think there is some barriers there, some holistic approaches, lots of really good points that you're bringing in. I'm going to suggest we go on to the next question. What barriers and issues have you experienced to support homelessness patients? So we've got communicating with housing council departments isn't always easy. Engagement, moving past temporary accommodation to getting them permanent accommodation, finding them a steady engagement, lack of support, lack of knowledge, engaging with housing application services. Yeah, you know, any of the speakers want to come in now and just sort of share some thoughts around that. But these are some of the barriers that people are experiencing. Not seeing any other questions coming into the chat box at the moment. But Stephen, were you going to come in on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with all those barriers and issues that people have put up on Slido there. The online housing applications are a bit of a nightmare. One, people often don't have access to online services if they're homeless or in temporary accommodation, and they're very long, take forever. I did one with someone over the phone last week, and it took us 3 hours, and we didn't quite finish it. So that's really difficult. And someone mentioned the move on. So I think that's an issue as well. In our area, the councils have done some really good work around getting people housed, either under new temporary housing or under the severe winter weather protocols, which severe winter pressures come to an end at the end of March, I believe, but they've done very well. But then it's that next step of moving people on into longer term accommodation, and that's where the supply side falls down. So that's definitely a big issue. I did see that Jess asked about managing the drop-in clinics. Yeah, it's pretty busy. So all of our services really now at Meadowell, other than specific support services, are done on a drop-in basis. So the GP appointment's done on a drop-in basis to reduce the numbers of did not attend. And I do the same for my support as well. So people are generally really understanding. You know, they'll come. You know, whatever time the sessions are, and they will happily wait. And normally, some people it's quite quick. It might be half an hour. Other people it might be an hour. Other people it might be more. And then if there's follow-up work to do, I do that outside of the drop-in sessions. So then we'll make a specific appointment to meet or to come to the surgery for any particular follow-up work that comes on from that initial chat. But I often overrun my sessions. So I might overrun by half an hour or an hour if people, you know, I try not to book anything else in immediately following one of the drop-in sessions, just to make sure that, you know, I've got a bit of wiggle room to see people if it's super busy.
Thank you, Stephen. Just to say, yeah, you know, doesn't appear to have worked for one or two of you in the slider poll, but we've got quite a lot of contributions. And sorry, I think it's Guinevere that you're saying you're having a bit of a technical issue on that. But I just wanted to sort of thank Stephen for those points. Really interesting and challenging, and I think such a juggle. I think that's really coming through.
David.
Yeah.
David, I was going to say, I noticed one of the things on Slido is about the creativeness of housing services such as Homeshare, and I was just going to say that we have actually, well, before the pandemic, we were starting to work with a supported living organisation to kind of dovetail homeless people going into supported living organisations with elderly people or people that have support needs, and the thing, because for us as a Homeshare organisation, what we have to be careful is if someone is homeless, they're vulnerable, and if, for instance, the Homeshare has to stop for some reason, maybe it's someone that's elderly and they pass away or their needs change, we don't want to be in a position where we have got people that are actually going to be homeless. But the idea of working with the supported living organisation was that, you know, that we would work in partnership to ensure that that didn't happen, and that person, if they were supporting someone in a supported living environment in a Homeshare, then you know, there would be somewhere else for them to move on to.
Thank you very much for contributing to that. And if there's any other questions that you've seen, please do feel free to just chip in to them. I think there's another one for Stephen about supervision. Do you have good access to good supervision? Could imagine the role could be very emotionally draining at times. That's from Kate Daniel.
Not as good as possibly I would like. Because partly that's down to COVID, you know, and the, excuse me, the lack of face-to-face support. I have a very good relationship with the GPs at Meadowell Surgery, and I well supported by other colleagues, but it can be an issue. It's something that I think I'm hoping that once we get back to something approaching normality, that we can have much more face-to-face contact with other colleagues and that sort of clinical supervision. But it's you know, I miss the face-to-face contact with the patients actually as much as support from colleagues, because I actually did a COVID secure meeting with somebody at the surgery yesterday due to his very limited reading and writing abilities, and it was really nice to spend a couple of hours with one of the patients, you know, and that in itself can be, you know, quite an emotionally productive thing to have that face-to-face contact with people. So yeah, I think it's a challenge for all of us in all of our roles during the pandemic, but hopefully we'll all come out the other side of it in decent shape.
Yeah, yeah.
I got a question for Stephen as well. It sounds like you're very well embedded with that practice, and I love the drop-in nature being available to patients with chaotic lifestyles and lots of the demands on their time.
Yeah.
How do you manage the liaison with all of the other people in the team? Do you have formal multidisciplinary team meetings, or is it more an individual sidling up to people at the end of their clinic and saying, "Can I talk to you about this guy?"
Yes, and I can always knock on a door as well, as long as they're obviously not with another patient. I can always knock on the door. I can email. You know, so the GPs are very reactive. You know, I can email directly to the GP and say, "Oh, I just wanted to let you know about so and so," and vice versa. They'll come back to me. And if I am in the surgery, I can knock on the door as long as they're available and have a chat. So it's very ad hoc. Again, that might be something that might be beneficial. So we have MDTs. So I also support patients in 3 other surgeries who are general population. We have palliative MDTs plus complex case MDTs. And we have sort of had a bit of a chat about, you know, whether or not the complex case MDTs is a good route for some of our homeless patients at Meadowell. We'll see whether or not there is a need for a particular MDT for our Meadowell patients with the Meadowell GPs and the other support services. That might be something to look at, actually. That could be something worth investigating. But at the moment, it's very ad hoc, and but it's normally quite successful in an ad hoc way.
Thank you. Could I ask a question to Kate Walsh? I was just wondering, in terms of the numbers of patients that are actually using the social prescribing service in secondary care, how many of those patients that might be referred from A&E or might be referred from secondary care, how many of those often do you find are homeless?
Apologies, my camera appears to have just crashed, but roughly I would say about sort of 25%, 20%, something like that. We do work with sort of quite a small caseload because we work more intensively than the primary care side of our team. We can work with them sort of to, you know, any time scale really. But yeah, I'd say about a quarter are homeless, although in the recent meetings we've had at the hospital, there is talk that currently in Barnsley that a lot of homeless people are housed in temporary accommodation, but with coming to the end of the lockdown restrictions, they're kind of expecting a bit more of an influx coming through A&E. But yeah, I'd say around 20-25% of our customers.
Thank you. I can see as well there's been 1 or 2 other things that have been put in the chat box, but yeah, you're doing it brilliantly to be still here if you're having technical troubles, Kate, so thank you for answering that. And so I see other folk having issues. Oh yeah, sorry about that. Don't know why. We seem to have got half of you on Slido and half of you seem to be having other problems. I've got a little bit of background noise. I'm just going to hand over to Nigel here.
Yeah, thank you. It's very quiet in my shed, so everything's very peaceful. Everything's very peaceful down this end of the garden. I was also interested in hearing a bit more about the accident and emergency work that's going on. That is pre-pandemic was a real challenge. Frequent flyers, as they often get labelled in A&E. One of the key problems there is that people often turn up out of hours when there's limited sources of referral, limited places that you can send people to. How are you working with that? Did I understand that the A&E was sort of containing frequent attenders and then referring them on to you for engagement and further management?
Is that for me? Sorry.
Yeah, I guess.
Sorry,
yeah.
Wasn't sure. Yes. So generally, we'll get referrals from whoever's sort of picks them up at A&E. But we do have for customers that we're trying to, for patients, for people that we're trying to make contact with who are of no fixed abode, we'll have flags placed on them on the system at the hospital so that we can get a call if they're in, because often getting a referral after they've been in and then us trying to track them down is a bit of a minefield, obviously. So yeah, one of the things that we've got in place to get around that is to have flags placed on their ED cards, and then we'll get a call. Obviously, if it's very out of hours, we won't pick up the call necessarily straight away, because we are currently anyway, we are a Monday to Friday service. Although we have built in with our advisors that they can work more flexibly with their hours, so they might occasionally or sort of flexibly work later in an evening to be sort of more available for customers who are likely to go in after hours.
Excellent, thank you. It's really worthwhile.
And just to add to that, on that subject, there is the duty to refer that the hospitals and A&Es have to do, but it might not always happen. So it kind of relies a little bit on a good relationship between the hospital and the local authority. So the hospital will do their duty to refer to the local authority, and the smoother that communication process is, the better. But there is the duty to refer as well, but for anybody who self-identifies as homeless or rough sleeping.
That's really encouraging to hear that that's coming through, because that the 2017 Homelessness Reduction Act didn't seem to have any sanction with it. So there's the duty there, but nobody really checking whether people are complying with it. So it's encouraging to hear that is being recognised, and that people are starting to realise that they have a responsibility to refer people in that way. That's very good.
Can I just check, has that question been picked up in the chat? Do you think that having a number of specific homeless centres is sustainable, or should it be aimed to integrate these supported services into regular GP centres? That's aimed at Stephen.
In an ideal world, that would be fabulous, but I think it's sort of space and property issues. So there are really only two main sort of sites for people in our area, which is Meadowell Surgery and New Hope. So New Hope have quite a large site, which also provides food. They do hot breakfast, they have showers, they have they can do packed lunches for people as well. They have support officers there who people can see, and they also do courses as well. So they have a room where they can do courses. So there's no way we could provide all that additional support within the boundaries of the site that we've got. We've got quite a big surgery, but in terms of all those additional things that are really, really helpful, particularly things like showers, washing machines for clothes that people can do, we wouldn't have the capacity for that. It would be wonderful, but unfortunately, that would require quite a big site that we don't really have.
No, thank you very much, Stephen. I think we've got one more question that's come up in the chat from Rowan about are A&E and hospitals trained specifically to that work. I think it's referring to the social prescribing service that Joe and Kate run. Joe, do you have your hand up to respond to that?
Yeah, I think it was the A&E staff. I'm not sure if it was relating to the Homeless Reduction Act. So there are training programs out there, and some local housing providers, local authority housing teams have gone out and delivered the training, but there's been no fixed program, so there is little awareness. We're doing our best to sit around the right tables, having the right conversations to make sure those referral routes are open and that people do understand their responsibilities under the Homeless Reduction Act. But it's a bit of a slow burner, but we still try to have that conversation in as many forums as we can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I'm conscious of time, and a couple of other things we need to do. I just want to show you what people have said they might do next as a result of hearing the speakers today. So I'm just going to share that Slido for those who were able to get on, and apologies if you were not. But what we've got is what might you do next? Meet with the council and housing departments. Brilliant. share info with colleagues, form a stronger partnership with homeless teams and recovery services. Wonderful. Look to include elements discussed, look into creative housing services such as house shares, push for prescribelessness on homelessness panel meetings, and love the idea of drop-in sessions. We currently do not use this option in our service. Excellent, really, really good contributions and thoughts that have been stimulated from this workshop. So just to sort of say thank you so much to all of our speakers and everyone who's contributed. We have another one in there. Speak to my manager about setting up stronger links. Yeah, discuss Steve's service with yours and research. Brilliant. Just to sort of highlight that you might want to go into the platform's networking and meeting lounge. We're sort of encouraging people to go and use that space where possible. But just again, thank you to everybody who's spent quite a lot of time contributing to the technical side of things, getting all the preparation and giving you time. And thank you so much to our co-chairs. And Nigel, last words for you.
Just check back out if you're interested in finding out more about this field. Go to pathway.org.uk. There's an awful lot of information and resources there to share for free.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.